Good evening, members, and welcome to the March meeting of the Spennymoor Town Council Policy and Resources meeting. As usual, the council would like to advise that the meeting is being video and audio recorded, as well as being live streamed to YouTube. It will subsequently appear on the council's website. Please ask that all mobile devices are either switched off or to silent during the meeting. Before we move to the agenda, just to let members know that I will be deferring item 13 on tonight's agenda. That's the report on Spennymoor Cricket Club and the update from Sport England. Officers have told me that they're expecting to have a meeting with Sport England prior to this meeting. That won't be now happening until Friday, so they've asked me to bring that report back following their meeting with Sport England, or representative from Sport England, should I say. So that'll be the case for item 13. Item 1 is apologies for absence.
Councillors Grayson and Mrs Richards.
Thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest.
One for this evening, can I just say that Councillor Ranyard did send his apologies.
Okay. So there'll be no members' dispensations. Public questions, item 4.
None for this evening.
Thank you. Item 5 is planning.
Yeah, members are asked to consider the application to erect a steel frame building for the purpose of storage of cars, servicing and repairs at Unit 7, Coulson Street, Merrington Lane.
Any members wishing to speak? Thank you. Okay, item 6 is the motion on notice. Members are requested to consider the motion on notice from Councillor Pete Malloy.
Thank you, Chair. In March of last year, the Town Council stopped holding meetings in line with central government guidelines due to the coronavirus situation, which brought into effect the Town Council scheme of delegation that authorises the Town Clerk to act on behalf of the Town Council in cases of urgency or emergency. The Town Council meetings resumed remotely on the 4th of August 2020. On the 3rd of November 2020, Councillor Ian Geldard put a post up on his councillor's Facebook page entitled "Town Hall Shops to Pay No Rent During Lockdown." The first paragraph of Councillor Geldard's post states, "In my role as lead member for Council Policy and Infrastructure, at the weekend I asked the Town Clerk to consider using an emergency delegated authority to again suspend Town Hall shop rents for those businesses who will be unable to trade during the upcoming lockdown." She agreed to do so. At the Policy and Resources Committee meeting held via Zoom on Tuesday the 5th of January 2021, Councillor Geldard informed the meeting that he had asked the Town Clerk to consider appropriate support for local businesses, and again the scheme of delegation was used to freeze rents for Town Council shop tenants. I am all for supporting our shop tenants when we can, so this is not an issue of not helping out our struggling shop tenants in difficult times, but an issue of a lead member or any member being able to approach the Town Clerk to request the use of scheme of delegation when it does not state they can do under Section 9 of the scheme of delegation policy, and in the process preventing an issue being fully debated and voted on by members when the council is in a position of holding meetings. I propose that Section 9A, which reads, "The Town Clerk is authorised to act on behalf of the council in cases of urgency or emergency," be amended to, "The Town Clerk is only authorised to act on behalf of the council in cases of urgency or emergency when the members are on recess or when calling a meeting there is no quorum for the meeting to go ahead." Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Malloy. Is there a seconder to the motion? Okay, thank you. Item 7, accounts for payments. 7A, supply payments for February. Members are requested to note the list of approved payments totaling £41,828.88 made during February 2021. I have a request to speak on this item from Councillor Hiley.
Yeah, sorry about that, Chair. I don't feel too good this evening. My only comment is when I've looked through the figures is a laptop purchase for £900 on the Town Clerk or the
So Clerk?
I didn't quite catch all of that, but what I can advise is that laptop was purchased for a member of staff who up until recently had been using their own device to work from home, but the device had broken. So the member of staff was supplied with a laptop. The laptops for staff are much more expensive because they allow access to the shared drive and have to be supplied via Evolve, and they have increased security, etc., and all of the licenses that they require. So it was for a member of staff to allow them to continue to working from home.
Thank you. I have Councillor Malloy to speak.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, there was a payment for safety trainers of £73.61. Is there any particular reason why we had to pay an expensive pair when there are many cheaper pairs on the market? Thank you.
I think we've discussed this item at length when you put a motion to the council, and that was considered less than 6 months ago, so we can't revisit the same issue. Councillor Clive Madison.
Thank you, Chair. The question I have may not be relevant tonight because you've now taken off the item which was connected to it. All I would like to say is these are the latest figures for this month for all the finances. And in the item that's been taken off, it said £7,905. I would have thought that would have shown up on these figures, and it doesn't. Maybe you can enlighten me on that.
I think this is we're discussing the list of paid invoices. That's what this item is. It's the list of paid invoices.
It will be paid, won't it? It's financial. It will be paid. It says it's going to be paid to someone that's doing some plans, so it should really be on this. That's my opinion.
No, this is a list of invoices that have been paid by the town council already.
Can the town clerk?
This is a list of paid invoices. No, I'm answering your question as the chairman. This is a list of paid invoices, and all we're doing is approving the list of paid invoices. Can I ask a member to move that we approve those invoices?
Move to approve the invoices.
Chair.
Thank you. I'll take one of you as the seconder, so I heard you both come in at the same time. Thank you. Item 7B is the paid accounts. Members are requested to note the payment of accounts by fax or card in the sum of £64,959.67 and payments by direct debit in the sum of £11,204.74 for February 2021. Happy with those?
Yeah.
Move draft, yeah.
Thank you. Item 8 is the bank reconciliation. Members are requested to note the current bank account reconciliation for January 2021. We note that. Thank you. Item 9, motor vehicle accident. Members are requested to consider the report of the finance manager.
Through you, Chair. It's a very brief report just to advise members that our insurer has notified us that a motor vehicle claim in relation to an accident in October 2019 has now been settled. Just to note that the claim may result in an increased insurance premium, so members asked just to note the content of the report.
Can I ask members to note that? Thank you. Item 10 is the review of the Internal Audit Service 2020 to 2021. Members are again requested to consider the report of the Finance Manager.
Thank you, Chair. So this report, it's just to provide members with information around the annual review of the Internal Audit Service for 2020-21. So the report sets out the background and the reasons why the review, including the requirements of the Audit Regulations 2015, so why it's required. So the review, it's primarily around the effectiveness of the internal audit, and it focuses on the quality of the delivery of the service and the assurance it provides to the council on risk and internal control. I'm going to take that the report has been read and move straight to the conclusion and recommendations. So in conclusion, it's the view of the senior management team that the internal audit arrangements are operating effectively. There's been no significant internal control issues identified during the financial year, and the council's governance and internal control arrangements are considered to be sound and effective. Members are requested to consider the information in the report and support the conclusion that the internal audit arrangements are effective. This conclusion will then be taken into account in consideration of the annual review of the effectiveness of the council's system of internal control and the approval of the annual governance statement later in the year. So it's recommended that members receive the information set out in the report and supports the conclusion that the council's internal audit service is effective, and the outcome of the review of the effectiveness of the internal audit service is taken into account when approving the annual governance statement later in the year. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Liz Madison.
Thank you, Chair. It's already been pointed out as regard to item 13, the cricket club, which has been taken off the agenda.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt.
I'm not
Councillor
finished,
Madison.
Councillor Geldard.
Councillor Madison, I'm the chairman. As you know, I'm asking you to stop talking for a second and listen to my point. My point is that we're discussing the review of the internal audit service.
And that's exactly what I'm about to come up to.
You were referring to item 13. I would like you to refer to item 10 and item 10 only. Thank you.
Right. I will refer then to the internal audit report. I have got concerns with regard to certain issues, one of which is that we need proper reports, which I've indicated previously with regard to the art gallery, which doesn't appear on the internal audit. We also have a transaction that went through with regard to allocation of 30,000, which was for the cricket club, which isn't determined as yet. And therefore, these are issues that really need to be resolved as part of the internal audit process and to be properly evaluated by the internal auditor. Thank you.
Councillor Neil Foster.
With all due respect to my colleagues, I think they've slightly misunderstood what the nature of this report is. This is how are we going to do an internal audit report and what's the best way to do it and how is it going to work. It's not the internal audit report itself. The questions you have are perfectly valid when we get to that point in the year. It's not particularly relevant for this point in the year. Having read the report, having understood how we've gone through the last few years, how I think we've developed a good working relationship and more importantly, a positive working relationship, I think I'm more than happy to move the recommendations as laid out in front of us.
Thank you, Councillor Foster. And Councillor Foster, I think you're correct in your deciphering of this particular aspect of the report, in that what we're doing here is talking about the relationship with the internal auditor and not the works programme for the auditor, which is something that's set by the audit committee. Councillor Ian Machin.
I'd just like to second Councillor Foster's motion to accept the report for exactly the conditions and reasons that he stated, and so did the Chair.
Thank you. I'm going to move in a second to accept the recommendations. Are we all in favour?
Agreed.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Okay, item 11 is Town and Parish Council elections. Members are requested to consider the report of the Town Clerk.
Last week, a couple of weeks ago, I attended updated training on the elections. Most of this report is for information only, but I would like to draw members' attention to where it starts at point 3.13. which points out the current council retires.
Yeah, the voice is distorted. I can't hear a word.
Okay, Town Clerk, can I just interrupt?
And the new council.
Town Clerk, sorry. Can you hear me?
The new council must hold its annual meeting within 14 days. Yes.
Just, I think this. Sorry, Town Clerk. I think
Yes.
your connection's running very slowly because we couldn't hear what you were saying.
Can you not hear me?
No, I thought I might have just been struggling myself, but there was other members as well, I think.
Right, can you hear me now?
It's slightly better. It's just slightly distorted. Try and continue. Let's try and continue.
But can you hear me now?
Yes.
Right. Point 3.30 points out that the current council retires on 10th of May when new councillors can take up their positions and the new council is created. The new council must hold its annual meeting within 14 days of the 10th of May. So that's between the 10th of May and the 24th of May. This is a legal requirement. Councillors cannot attend a meeting until they have signed the Declaration of Acceptance of Office. If the declaration is not signed and delivered to council before the first meeting deadline, then the council seat will be declared vacant and a notice of casual vacancy will be published. However, at the first meeting of the council can set a further deadline if it so wishes to avoid this happening. So it's to cover, for instance, if a member is on holiday for an extended period after the election and can't attend to sign their declaration. The council will be recharged for a proportion of the election costs by Durham County Council, and we currently have a budget of £16,000 set aside for this. Members are asked to note the contents of the report and to note that it is still awaiting notification from the returning officer at DCC as to when purdah will commence and also what form the elections themselves will take, i.e. polling stations, and also details re how the count will take place, when and where. Members are asked to consider the date of the annual meeting. It is currently set for Tuesday the 25th of May, which is one day outside the legal limit. Officers recommend that the annual meeting is held on Monday the 24th of May so that it's brought forward one day. This is the last date by which it can be held lawfully. This will give councillors as long as possible to sign the declarations of acceptance, and also for councillors to discuss how they wish the council to run going forward. Members will know that the agenda for the annual meeting is the most comprehensive of all the council meetings, and numerous decisions are taken re chairman and vice chairman of the council, committees, committee places, etc. In order for the meeting to be called lawfully, the agenda will need to be supplied to members on Tuesday the 18th of May at the latest to meet the legal requirements in relation to giving members 3 clear days notice to consider the agenda. So it's a very tight time scale.
Yeah, is that it, Town Clerk? Apologies, I think we are struggling with your connection slightly tonight. Are there anyone, Councillor Foster, to speak on this item?
Yes, it is, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Foster?
Thank you, Chair. It's always an interesting time when we're running elections as to how is the best way to do it. And of course, this is a most exceptional time in terms of how elections are going to be run. And one or two things that need to be decided. And of course, I think the pushing of postal votes, I think, is one way that may well solve any problems. But for our immediate concern tonight, it's how can we place ourselves best to deal with it. And I think the idea of moving to the Monday the 25th to give us the maximum time to enable new councillors to be in place, and also for those members who are successful to organise things. There's nothing to stop the papers being published, advertising the various elections at the annual meeting without necessarily having names attached to the individual places. That could be something that could be followed up in the interim time before the 25th. All in all, I think the report reads well, and I'm more than happy to move it.
Thank you, Councillor. Anybody else want to speak on this item? Okay, and I just have a second to accept the recommendation.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Okay, it's moved and accepted accept the recommendations of the report. All in favour of that?
Aye.
Great, thank you. Item 12 then is a report on the Young People's Awards. Councillor.
Through you, Chair, I think it might be easy if I try and take this one. It might be a bit clearer. I think Catherine's having a little bit of trouble with communication at her end.
No problem, Mr. Hanson.
The purpose of the report is to put forward an idea to hold the above awards virtually. The background is, unfortunately, Young People's Awards didn't take place in 2020 as the first COVID lockdown came into force shortly before the ceremony was due to take place. The current position is due to the ongoing situation, it doesn't appear feasible that the Town Council will be able to organise this year's event unless it's held virtually. What we're proposing is that we advertise the event, promote it through skills, etc., as we normally would. Judging could be held virtually, and this could be a virtual event with the winners awarded later on in the year, and this year's winners and the police awards would also be involved, and as agreed last year. Further, the event will be held in probably around June or July rather than March to enable us to get the applications into skills and back, and to avoid any period from the end of March to May, and also the annual meeting, which takes a substantial amount of organisations. The proposal is to hire a studio for the day via BBC Radio Tees, an engineer, a compere, and previously we've always used Damascus Road as well to create the event. From a finance perspective, there's currently 4,000 available in the Young People's Award event budget, and that includes 660, which was rolled over from last year. The proposed costs are around 350 for the hire of the studio, cost of an engineer, the compare, the Damascus Road, all in all, totaling costing around £1,630. The proposals are that members support the idea of the Young People's Award ceremony going ahead virtually in terms of in the terms outlined, in an effort to boost morale amongst young people and the community in general. And also that standing orders that we have to allow officers to get on planning the event. The recommendations are that officers recommend that members do support the idea as funding is available, and the opportunity to showcase positive efforts of young people in the area would be a good thing.
Thank you. I have Councillor Clive Madison to speak.
Thank you, Chair. I did discuss this at the pre-meeting with yourself and Colin. One of the things which I see is there's not many young people done much this year. Most of the schools have been cancelled for a year. I'm all for this, but really, when people are sitting in front of screens, I don't think it's the right way to award them. I would say, I would move that we do it in the town hall at the end of the year, and I think we will be back in progress by then. Thank you.
I would second that.
Okay. Councillor Haley.
Yeah, I think Clive Madison had a reasonable spot, but we haven't yet the results of this year's young person award. Just the to see all the people last year in organising. It was a great idea to promote young people in the town, but we didn't promote them last year because of COVID. Why not this year for the last as well? It's a good question. And I apologize.
Thank you, Councillor Ian Machin.
Can I ask the town clerk or the facilities manager if any thoughts been given to the issue raised by Councillor Madison, i.e. The circumstances that we're in with regard to lockdown, and if any thoughts being given to how the awards would be realigned, if that's the right word, in order to reflect the circumstances that we're in, where there might still be situations where young people have excelled, but it would be worth noting that.
Through you, Chair. Basically, obviously, we've considered, what we can, and obviously there are young people doing things and doing some, as Captain Tom got up and made some effort. There are young people doing things out there. Obviously, what we're not aware of is, have they been doing them to the extent or the degree that they would have normally? We've got last year's awards to do. It's completely a member's choice. We're happy to do it virtually in June, July time. If members would prefer that we wait till the end of the year and do a ceremony, ideally in the town hall, then that's members' prerogative and members' choice, not a problem at all.
Thank you. Councillor Malloy.
Thank you, Chair. Just seek some clarification, if I may. Is this report just solely to do with the postponements of last year's Young Persons Awards? So to address like what Councillor Clive Madison said, that there mightn't have been many children doing anything this year, so this year won't count. Is that how I'm reading it right? Cheers.
Through you, Chair, no, it would be to wrap up last year's ceremony and to also do this year's, and it would also to include the police, because the police have obviously been doing monthly awards as well, so it would be to encompass the work that the police have been doing in the community as well.
Thank you for that, Facilities Manager.
You're welcome, Councillor Malloy.
Councillor Wood.
I really think it should be should wait till the end of the year, when all the proud parents can sit in the town hall and see their children go up on that stage. I really do think I think it will be a personal thing later on in the year. I think we'll have overcome all the difficulties. So I'd rather see it wait till later in the year.
Okay, thank you. There's no other speakers. I do have a motion on the table then from Councillor Clive Madison, seconded by Councillor Liz Madison. Can you just clarify that motion again for us, Clive?
Thank you, Chair. I would move that it's organised when we are back in the town hall so people can come face to face, because it is not the same when people are looking at screens. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to a vote on that motion then. Can I ask the Minute Secretary to run us through the order of members?
Councillor Abley. For. Councillor Foster.
For.
Councillor Harmer.
For.
Councillor Hiley.
For.
Councillor Machin.
For.
Councillor Mrs Machin.
For.
Councillor Madison.
For.
Councillor Mrs Madison.
For.
Councillor Malloy.
For.
Councillor Mrs Thompson.
For.
Councillor Thompson.
For.
Councillor Mrs Wood.
For.
Yeah, thank you. That's passed unanimously. Move on then to item 14, which is a community grant application from Step to the Occasion. Members are requested to consider this application. Does anybody wish to speak?
Through you, Chair, can I just run through it, please?
Yeah.
Right, so this is from Step to the Occasion. This organisation, the Town Council, has already agreed that they can use the community facility in the park for the next 6 months for free. They're already trading, and they have been since October. They do have their own bank account, and they are a community organisation. They're asking for funding to buy resources for the service, to bolster the service that they're already running. They do raise funds by upcycling furniture and selling it on. They have got a project in mind, and you can see the breakdown in section 4 of the financial information. At the moment, apart from the income that they're hoping to generate and increase now that they've been given the community building, they're asking the Town Council for £5,000. At the moment, they don't have any other sources of funding or are awaiting any other sources of funding for this particular project. If they only receive the £500, then obviously they will look to fund part of what they're asking for. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Town Clerk, or Councillor Liz Madison to speak.
Chair, I have had correspondence with the Town Clerk today and hope that it could be resolved before tonight's meeting, but that isn't the case. On page 11, as part of this application, it does say that please note that failure to complete all of the sections in this form and sign and date will result in the form being returned without consideration. Members will note that on page 9, section 5A has not been completed. And I did ask if this could be sent to the organisation earlier today to have this particular section completed. We are failing in our duties if we don't adhere to the policies that we set ourselves. Whilst I have no problem in agreeing a grant of £500, I do think that section 5A should have been completed before this came to the meeting this evening. Thank you.
I think if I can respond in somewhat to that, when I read this application form, I believe that the section was empty because there was no funding. There was no other funding or that we were expecting, and I think the Town Clerk told us that as well. I wouldn't expect an organisation to fill that section in if there wasn't any match funding. So as far as I'm concerned, this has been completed properly. Town Clerk, am I missing something there?
No, I did go back to the organisation and they did confirm they don't have any other funding applications in. Also, they can put on the form, which they have put, is they sell recycled furniture, but obviously they don't know how much that is and what the income will be until they've done and sold it. But this section is specifically asking for like DCC funding or sponsored events, etc., and they have nothing, so they could put nothing in that section.
Yeah, I thought that would be the case. Thank you for clarifying that.
Chair, I would like to come
Councillor
back on that one, please. On the application form, it should have stated not applicable if that was the right thing to do.
I really think we're clutching at. No, you can't, Councillor Madison. You can't speak over the chair.
I would just like to get confirmation.
Councillor Madison. Councillor Madison.
Point of order, Chair.
Councillor Madison. I've muted Councillor Madison because she will not speak over the chair. Thank you. I have Councillor Machin next to speak. He was in the queue.
Can I just ask for clarification? Is the organisation a kick? And I noticed that they're selling recycled furniture. I just want to make sure that they're registered with HMRC, so that everything's, all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed.
That's up to the organisations. We don't go into this detail. They are registered formally as a CIC. They are registered with the regulator for that, but we don't ask them if they're following the rules and regulations. The same as when we lease a shop, we don't ask them if they're signed up for VAT. That's for them to sort out, not for us.
Does that answer your question there, Councillor Machin?
Yeah, mostly. I just want to make sure that the money's in good hands. I'm sure it is, but I just wanted to make sure that if they need any help or guidance, then it's been provided to them. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Clive Madison.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Can you clarify, is this £500 or is it £5,000, please?
500.
£500. At the end of the day, we've
Yes.
always had loads of red tape. The town clerk has these letters where these things can go forward with things for the mine and for the big meeting and all that. £500 is absolutely nothing. These people are trying to make a go of it. Give them the money, please. I propose we give them the £500, regardless of the red tape on the papers.
Thank you, Clive. I completely agree. Whether or not they have or haven't left a box empty that hasn't got anything corresponding to it, I completely agree with that, and I will second that from the chair.
Thank you.
Councillor
And I
Foster.
wouldn't have disagreed.
Councillor Madison, you're out of order. Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Chair. It's almost starting to get entertaining. From my point of view, we have gone through this report. They have answered the questions to the best of their knowledge, and I do hope we can support them. I think it's in our own best interests to help this group become established and do well. They're using a facility which we haven't used previously. It is engaging with the community in perhaps a novel way that they could be beneficial. I do hope that perhaps through the good offices of the town clerk, we could perhaps point them in the general direction of the AAP or any other potential funding. I mean, there is the Durham County Foundation of funding. I'm sure they're as aware of them as we are. So it could well be that we become just part of the match funding. And I think a reasonable limit of 500 is where we are, and I'm more than happy to support that.
Thank you, Councillor Foster. There's no one else to speak on that item. It's been moved by Councillor Madison and seconded by myself that we support the application. Are we all in favour of that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, there we go. Another interesting meeting over. It's of course the penultimate one before the local election, so of course it was going to be entertaining, and I'm sure the April one will be even more so.
It'll get better.
Thank you very much for attending, members. Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you.